Welcome back to DR Sports and another Talking Tactics show with me and Matisse. We've got a table.
Yes, we're upgrading.
They really are upgrading for us. Thank you, Jason, Ryan. Thank you for production. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Don Robbie.
Yes, they're not ready for what's coming on this show in terms of upgrades.
No, but we do have some really exciting plans.
Yeah, we do, but hush, hush.
Hopefully you'll have some better Chelsea news to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not been great, man. I thought, brilliant. The last one, we got to chat some nice stuff, you know. What was it, a 2-0 win? Things coming together, Sterling finding form.
Yeah. Didn't last, did it? Slightly overblown, maybe. Maybe today we won't look into it too much. We'll just skate past that and move on.
For any Chelsea fans who are watching this, we're actually not going to do a lot on Chelsea today. I think in fairness to you, you've had Big Six, you've had your own channel, you've been on DR Sports earlier as well. Yeah. Done more than your fair share.
My therapist as well. Therapist, don't leave that one out.
We'll put the Chelsea thing to the side. Cool. You're going through a transition. You can drop points. Liverpool went and won. Couple own goals. Yeah. They weren't great. Even Liverpool fans saying they got away with one.
Really did.
We can park all that. But we're not going to spend quite a lot of time on Arsenal today. We're going to spend a bit of time on Man City as well. And of course, we'll chat Tottenham and give Unai Emery his flowers because what a performance Villa put in. And he's doing a good job. I think there's a lot of things he's doing tactically very interesting, let's say. Yeah. Let's start with Arsenal. I want to chat about something you said on the Big Six. Odegaard's not really a 10.
No.
He's more of an 8 who's kind of dropping out to the right and he's playing his part on the right-hand side, combining with Saka and White. We did touch on it in the last episode, but give us a little bit more what you mean by that and Odegaard's role, because you're right, he's seen as a 10, but that's not really what he's doing.
I think with Odegaard, what's so impressive for me is that because he's not given that free luxury player role that you would actually kind of link to a player like him, the way that he plays on the ball, you would say, I'll give him a free role and off the ball we'll protect him with a double pivot. But he actually gets back in and he helps protect the defence. He's getting out wide, he's closing down spaces, he's making sure there's not gaps in between the lines. Yes, you can see there's some goals in the latter part of that Brighton game. I think that's nothing more than complacency. There's no way I'm going to hang my hat on Arsenal doing that. The way Saliba was, it's just not going to continue like that. It's just a little bit of complacency. But Odegaard, in that right channel, his chemistry and understanding with Ben White and Saka, it is the most fluid thing going on that right-hand side. It's so that, you know, each of them, they'll pick up their positions, whether it be on the touchline, tucking inside, inverted runs, whatever have you will. But Odegaard, for me, is one of the players that there was a little bit of a question mark last season, inconsistency. You know, on certain days, is he going to turn up in big moments where Arsenal really need him? Is he going to get enough goals? That was another question as well. He's added that to his game with this match. And that pass for Martinelli, I mean, he's I know Xhaka's maybe for a lot of Arsenal fans the captain, but he is wearing the armband. He does wear it for his country as well. He does deserve his flowers on that point. So it's just everything about Odegaard right now, the way he's playing. He's playing the game in a way where we don't see it often in modern day football anymore. We always look for, you know, where are our number 10s, even though he's not playing there, but he plays like one. Where are our creative outlets? We don't see it in football anymore. It's more very like workmanlike, whereas he's given us both.
This is Arsenal when they're going into a pressing shape. Odegaard does kind of lead it as a 4-4-2. He will chase, he'll sort of set the tempo, and he'll kind of be a part with Nketiah of kind of making sure that the fullbacks can't play. Partey and Xhaka will tuck in and be quite close sometimes. That's kind of more in central spaces, because obviously when we're so high up the pitch, it's Zinchenko that will come in. But we'll talk about that in a sec. And then when Arsenal have the ball, and we give it all the way back to Saliba, then that's Odegaard drifting right, and you're so right about that chemistry. I won't say too much, because we talked about it in the last episode as well, but you are right, you know, he pulls out right. So he is having to do very different things in one game alone. We see in football how quickly the ball transitions from one team to the other. You know, he is having to take on a lot of instruction, and a lot of people say he's kind of Arteta's leader on the pitch. I remember when there was a lot of football behind closed doors. Obviously we had that year where the fans couldn't get into the grounds, and journalists who were there who could actually hear a lot more of what was going on said that you'd be amazed kind of how vocal Odegaard is, and also how much he liaises with Arteta during games about what's going to happen on the pitch. I think Xhaka has a role in that, you know, sense as well. But Odegaard very much is wearing the armband because he is doing what Arteta would like to be doing if he were on the pitch himself, and that's something that gets very underrated as well.
It's similar to De Bruyne in some ways, and in some ways it's not. So that front two that you were talking about, that's what De Bruyne does for City a lot.
You're right.
Haaland, because Haaland's not as an aggressive presser as a Havertz or Jesus, then he gets De Bruyne and he goes with a 2 and he presses from the front, and then obviously we'll see De Bruyne drift back into the right. But where Odegaard plays it slightly different to De Bruyne is I see him, for me, in terms of he wants to be involved in the build-up play a lot more. Sometimes I see De Bruyne a little bit further forward, and they've got Gundogan, they've got Foden, there's more people that the play will go through. Whereas Odegaard, he is really the main person that the play goes through. So there's a lot more responsibility on that side of things as well in terms of the first and second phase, not even just the final phase. So yeah, really, really impressive from him. He's doing well. It's so, the parallels of Man City are so clear.
I know.
I've been watching Man City a lot, and obviously Arteta's come through that system with Pep. Rico Lewis tucking in. He's not a right back at all. He's tucking in. He's basically in a double pivot with Rodri. And you're seeing Zinchenko sometimes tuck in against Chelsea. I remember at Stamford Bridge, tucked in massively from that left-hand side, formed a double pivot. You split the centre-backs out to a back three. So when you're seeing a lot in football, these inverted fullbacks. And yeah, we can see Cancelo going forward and playing these passes, but just structurally, like you said, in build-up play and off the ball as well, if the ball, say, is on the right-hand side and your player's going to tuck in and maybe forego that space out there and almost bait them into playing that ball and then come across and deal with it after. We're seeing that this is being more and more of a fixture in the top teams.
He's been so important for us, Zinchenko, and that's why when he's had his injury problems, we're so worried about it, even though we've got other great options. Let's talk about how we stop this Arsenal team, because listen, I have no interest in stopping them.
I do.
I'd love this to carry on as long as possible, but it's only right that we ask the question. It's only right that we actually have a look at this Arsenal team. And all right, so let's look at how Arsenal are stopped. Not that I want to. I've got no interest in this. But in the interest of being unbiased and doing my job properly for DR Sports, I think we've got to explore it a little bit, because Arsenal their record's been phenomenal. 14 out of 16 wins, a draw and a defeat, which means they're clearly doing something right that other clubs just haven't been able to stop. Even at Old Trafford, really, Arsenal the better team. Yeah. Even against, at least definitely didn't deserve to lose at Old Trafford. Against Southampton, okay, we dropped points, we had many chances to win that game. Let me ask you, I've put together some ideas. What comes to your mind when you think, I want to see a club try this against Arsenal?
It's tough, because this is the first time I'm looking at Arsenal's team, and if I look at your 11, there's no real weak point in terms of, Saliba's made a couple mistakes in the last few matches. I do think that Brighton game was a lot of complacency, so there's something to be said for that. I would like to see people catch Arsenal out in a bit more of a transition situation. I think right now, I feel like it's too stable, it's too organised, there's no chaos. There's nobody trying to at least throw the question of P&P down that side. If you're going to play Zinchenko and you're going to play Xhaka, surely we must be able to get Almiron 1v1. Let's test out Zinchenko defensively. Let's really, really just target him. And I mean, because Ben White defensively has been really good, and the whole team has, because you guys have been organised. But if we're looking at Zinchenko, we know defensively he's not as good as a Tierney on most days, then really go for it and target. And I mean aerially, diagonal balls, if it has to be on that side, in behind, whatever it has to be, really try and get Xhaka back there, helping him out. And that might take away from Arsenal going forward and stop them from being so, because at the moment, Arsenal, every single player is just taking up the same roles every single game in terms of the way they go forward. You can read it like a book. So try and destabilise that a little bit by targeting one side, one flank, and then we might start to people come across, and then there might be some gaps. So, but I do think Wood plays right into your centre-back's hands, unfortunately. That's just something that I don't want to see.
I completely agree. I think there's a great point there about actually asking more questions defensively of that left-hand side. Martinelli does like to. He works hard, don't get me wrong, but he likes to hug the touchline and stay high up the pitch. And Zinchenko and Xhaka, you're right, can you get some runners to actually go at them and maybe cause them some problems? I mean, for me, there are three things. First, on Newcastle, keep doing what you're doing. I know it sounds silly, we're trying to come with solutions, but this is the team that have conceded the fewest goals in the league this season. Yeah. They've had an unbelievable year in terms of what was expected of them to what they're doing. I mean, even without, third in the table, certainly in a title discussion. So I think, on the one hand, it's do what you keep doing, because who are we to tell Hal that he should rip up the script just because he's facing Arsenal when they've been having such a terrific season? If I were to offer, though, other alternatives to facing Arsenal, and the first thing is getting the Arsenal players in their positions, and we talk about these lanes of five with Odegaard, Xhaka, getting up to help the defence. I mean, sometimes it's more like that with the back three, Partey, Zinchenko, whatever it might be. So, the first formation I'm going to offer isn't one that I actually like at all. I hate it in football, but it's actually to maybe look at going for a diamond. So I'd get someone like Wood out, and then let's say Callum Wilson. But you could go for St Maximan, he's back fit again.
Yeah.
So you could go for a diamond. Why? Because naturally, with this three that build up for Arsenal, I think you could look to almost have Almiron and Wilson sort of playing on each of the fullbacks or pressing, on Saliba, and having a slightly more condensed central midfield, just really stopping those passing lanes. Yeah. And you've got players that can do that. I mean, essentially, that's a midfield three. Willock likes to make the runs. And then also on the counter, you've got Almiron and Wilson who could pull wide. You've got the runs of Wilson getting forward. I think that's an option, because the one thing about Arsenal is they don't really care about having the ball there or the other side of Gabriel. They just want it wide here. They want to stretch the pitch and make sure that the spaces open up for the underlaps, for them to sort of, show their silk and their class and create some openings. So I think a diamond's an option. The other option I've gone for, I'll have to take a player out. Let's take out Willock, but I mean, he'd be unfortunate, he's playing well. The other option is I think you go to a back three. And again, I don't like the idea of changing formations just to match Arsenal. But again, if you went 5-3-2, funnily enough, what Wolves did, I mean, they weren't playing well. They went 5-3-2. I think even Southampton went to a back three in the game where we were 1-0 up and then they turned around the second half to get draw. They played a back three. Arsenal, when a team goes man for man with those kind of lanes of five, Arsenal do seem to have a little bit more problem breaking that down. Against Wolves, it took a bit of magic from Jesus. I'm not saying Arsenal wouldn't have chances, but I think so. I think they'd be able to be quite condensed in this kind of central part of the pitch. They'd be able to go man for man on the wingers and hopefully deal with the underlaps because they got 3 centre-backs. Are they going to want to change their plan completely for Arsenal? No, I don't think so. But if they were to, I think those are maybe 2 options.
Yeah, I think the key is, where are the pressing points? Do you press? Are you going to sit in the mid-block?
That's a great point,
because my thing is with playing Arsenal right now is, if you choose to press, build-up play is brilliant. They're cutting you straight through and they're going to do what they're going to do. But if you sit off too much and you show them too much respect, we're seeing the creativity on Odegaard. We're seeing, the Martinellis with the runs, and all it takes is 1 split second of a lack of concentration and they're in. So they have to get that balance right and not go too respectful, but also, of course, don't leave yourself open up. So where are the pressing points? Partey's very press resistant, extremely press resistant. So, you can go for that if you want to, but you're probably gonna lose that battle. I'm looking at a pressing point and I'm thinking to myself, again, Zinchenko, as much as I rate him, again, I want to see somebody rough him up, because I know Partey's winning his physical battle. Zinchenko wins this ball in this area. I just want to see a proper physical battle for Zinchenko if he does start. On the ball, off the ball, really, 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 because I feel like at the moment he's kind of like this free man. He's moving inside. People are still not really understanding how to deal with the situation. You spoke about the goal in the Brighton game. Now teams have got to really clock onto this inverted wing back thing, or right back or left back, inverted full back, and really, really try and deal with it, because it's causing problems. I don't think there's any, engaging with these centre backs. You're going to leave yourself open.
I know what you mean. There's almost no point. Let them have it.
Let them have it.
Yeah. Listen, I think, guys, that's in the comment section. What would you be doing if you're Eddie Howe approaching this game? I still, more than anything, I advocate for you having a great season. Do what you've been doing so well. But for the sake of exploring it, I think there's something in clubs just, instead of going punch for punch with Arsenal, which I think Brighton tried to do, to be fair, I think Arsenal just looking a little bit too just powerful in the final third, a little bit too clever. Why don't we see why don't they see if just maybe condensing that central part of the pitch and stopping Arsenal from playing, giving Martinelli and Saka even more work to do out there, whether that will cause Arsenal some problems. But I think you've always got to have a threat on the counter, because actually one thing that went under the radar a little bit was actually how well West Ham did in that first half, where, yes, even though we were dominated, had the better chances, the amount of times they won the second ball and there was a runner immediately to quickly pounce on that, they caused Gabriel and Saliba problems in that. So then that's another avenue that could be explored there. So
he at the moment is looking a little bit rough.
He is. Yeah, he is.
If he's in the middle of this 1v1s, and that's why Wood is a worry for me, because I feel like Wood, back to goal, he's perfect for what Saliba wants. He's right in front of him, he's touch tight. If you go with an Almiron or a St Maximum, and again, just really test Saliba's concentration, because I think when Saliba's concentrating, he's fine. But when he starts to get into that grey area around the penalty area. We saw the penalty given away for, in the game against, was it West Ham? Was it?
Yeah.
Gave away a penalty, and then the Brighton goal again. Lack of concentration. Get in and around him and try to, even if you have to bait and switch, pull the ball out here. You don't even mean to attack this area, but just try and get him isolated. Try and leave somebody like an Almiron out here just to keep people occupied and try and isolate Saliba as much as possible. Because at the moment, as much as I rate him, he's the only person that's showing any sign of, hesitation in the defence.
Yeah, I agree. And even in that, he's actually showed some class. But you're right, there have been moments of potential sloppiness. But we'll see. We'll see what Newcastle throw at Arsenal. I think it's going to be an amazing game. Do you have a score prediction for it?
You're at home, so,
I think that'd be
the Emirates crowd right now are, they're loving life. I'd probably say, and obviously, Wilson, is he a doubt? I'd probably go, probably 2-1 Arsenal. But I have been saying a draw because I'm trying to sprinkle that juju out there. I'm starting to put that out there.
Fair enough. I'm going 1-0. I think this will be a really tight game, but I'm just going to back them to get it over the line. But we'll see, man, because it's been, this will be tough. Let's talk about Man City. Spent a lot of time on Arsenal, guys. Let us know your thoughts going into the game and what you made of Arsenal's win against Brighton. Let's talk about Man City because let me show you some stats again. I've been doing this a lot, right?
Let's see.
This sort of the stats from 1 minute to another, and this is again Man City, Everton 1-1. When Everton equalised, I was looking at the stats and I was sort of looking at how the balance of play was going. I thought, you're not fooling me, City, because I saw the stats before the hour mark. Now I know by full time they had 16 shots. I know they had 4 big chances. I know they had 184 attempted attacking third passes. 32. I know all that. And you'll think, maybe one of those days where City just didn't take their chances, Everton scored with their one shot, football can do that. That first hour, they had 5 shots. Okay, 3 on target, they had 5 shots. That whole first hour of the game. I don't care what fixture list you got coming up, I don't care how many players you've rested, that will be poor for City an hour into a game against Everton, who are really struggling for confidence. And there just seems to be something about them that isn't clicking right now.
I think for me, City, not only, we've spoken about Haaland and naturally the over-reliance or the overdoing it of trying to constantly play to him. We see every single time De Bruyne gets the ball, he's looking up immediately for Haaland. And sometimes there's actually better options for other players. They're not spotting runs, they're not playing that extra pass because they want to go for Haaland. And it's understandably, he's breaking records, he's scoring goals, he's very clinical.
He's been unbelievable, yeah.
But even City, defensively as well, they're not rock solid this season. They're getting caught on transition. Cancelo, we've seen earlier on the season and at the World Cup at times as well, defensively being caught out. And I think I spoke about on this show, but I know why they tried to get Cucurella, because of Kyle Walker. And it's like the Kyle Walker on the left-hand side in terms of stamina, in terms of transition, in terms of pace, just raw pace to deal with the transitions and to allow them to invert and to, be a bit lopsided in their build-up play where they tuck in Rico Lewis, as we've seen. But you need to be able to deal with your transitions. You need to have that pace. And when you don't have that balance right, and obviously Akanji's come in and loads of changes back there. Ake's tried his best on that left. I think he's been decent this season. It's just the balance isn't there. I think Gomez has come in from Anderlecht, but he's not really playing. And so there is a balance there that they haven't got. And I'm surprised. I'd be surprised. I know they said they're not going to do any business in January. We could talk about the lack of wingers in the team and all this as well. That's another factor. There's no Sterling. Jesus used to play on the right wing, isolate people 1v1, cutbacks. They don't seem to have that threat out wide. It's very congested. It's very narrow. Everybody's coming inside. Nobody's stretching the pitch. You think of sometimes, Grealish has been told to stay on the touchline, but that's not his strength. Whereas Sterling on the touchline, different situation. He's a proper touchline winger. Grealish is meant to be floating. Grealish at Aston Villa was coming inside. So there's a lot of players at Manchester City, well, a few players, not a lot, but there's a few players that are doing jobs that they're not really trained to do, or that it's not perfect. It's just slightly off, and you can't be slightly off right now because Arsenal are just not off at all. So,
but that's what I wanted to talk about is what you mentioned about the forwards. Now we've just got what is a potential City 11. Don't focus on it too much, guys. It could be Bernardo Silva, it could be Jack Grealish, whatever. But still, you look at that, that's class. Bernardo, Jack Grealish in the squad, class, cool. They got talent, undoubtedly. Julian Alvarez, another. But you're right, and I want to bring up these 3 players: Raheem Sterling, Gabby Jesus, and he's run away from me. Here we go, Leroy Sané. Now Sané's been gone for a while and they've won titles without him. But the thing about those three, they're incredibly penetrative as runners.
Yeah.
And a lot of last season, we saw Jesus out on the right. Sterling, we saw right and left, but let's chuck him on the right. Sane, we saw on the left. And what they had was that unbelievable ability to stretch the pitch. The fullback doesn't know where to come and go, and then it could be Walker.
Split second.
Yeah. It could be Walker in this central area. It could be De Bruyne who's coming out wide. Whoever it is, they'll just find that cutting through ball that just slides the team open, cut across goal, and very similar to what Sterling did for your goal against Bournemouth the other day. Now, I am so surprised that Pep's wanted to go away from that. He has in the last kind of year or two, even maybe a little bit longer, moved towards players being much more inventive on the touchline, like Riyad Mahrez, because he can go outside, inside, he's got superb creativity. Foden can go on the outside, but we know he's more of a creator. Jack Grealish. And I understand, who doesn't want a load of creative tens around a player like Erling Haaland? But at the moment...
Better passes, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. But it feels like any through ball, any cutting edge is only going to come from an Erling Haaland run, and that is a lot of responsibility to put on him. Even though he's scoring goals, he's been brilliant. I'm just surprised that they've wanted to lose the pace that they've lost.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when Foden was at his best at the start of the season, he was that guy that was making those runs off of Haaland, looking for the knockdowns. He scored quite a few goals. He started to rotate quite a lot. I see City fans are getting quite frustrated. Yeah. Grealish is on the left side. Sometimes Grealish is having a great performance like he did against us in the Cup. Sometimes Grealish is not having such a great performance, but then he's collecting his assists like he did previously in the game before Everton. But you're right, it's very, Mahrez has never been that guy that's going to, stretch round the sides and run off the ball in terms of in behind. He's always that guy that's going to cut in, tuck in, do combination play, take his shots from outside the box, etc. But they're lacking the dynamism. They're lacking, like you're saying, more of what he brings. And I think Alvarez was meant to be that. But again, we haven't seen Alvarez as often as we would expect to maybe in the Premier League.
Have we even seen them together?
Very little. Champions League, I've seen Alvarez, I think, a bit more from what I can remember, but I'm not seeing him in the Premier League as often as I expected to. And I think the key to the second half of the season for Man City is to use Alvarez as that guy. Because we saw how great he was in the World Cup, running, making those direct runs. He's a proper striker. He wants to score goals, and he's got that knack for getting in behind. And he can use Haaland as a decoy. And when you've got Alvarez in the team, there's a clear goal threat. You have to pay respect to him. Yeah. And right now, I feel like you can sit up with Manchester City, sit up with a block, and as long as you stop him, and it's not, they're still not because he still scored. But as long as you can kind of monitor where he is, which is almost impossible, everybody else is playing in front of you, and you can see what's going on. There's nobody making that run. De Bruyne used to just clip it over, and you're thinking, where's that? And then next thing you know, Sterling, like you're saying, with all these players, and they're just popping out of nowhere. That doesn't really happen as often anymore. Yeah, I agree. And look, it's talking tactics. We've spent a lot of time on Arsenal, and obviously, praising them a lot. And now here we're sort of, I'm being particularly critical of Man City and some of the decisions they made with selling certain players. But look, I hate to say it, I still think they're going to get over the line. I think experience is so early in the season, 22 games to go. I still think Man City are going to win it. But they aren't half giving Arsenal a chance. And I think a big part of it is some of the players they've lost and how their style of football has changed. And look, Guardiola's reinvented his teams many times, from tiki-taka to a more control base system, and that's fine. I'm sure he'll do it again, and City will be imperious again with Haaland leading the line. But in the short term, I think it's just looking like a little too much of a transition than perhaps everyone anticipated it would be this early on. Let's end the show. I know we've got to wrap it up very soon, but I think it'd be wrong not to mention, I'm bored of talking about Tottenham because they've been so poor. I just, what else can I say? Change it up, go for a different system. I don't know. The substitutions as well. Again, same as when we were speaking off air with Potter. The substitutions from Conte. This is why you question not bringing in an Eriksen in the summer, regardless of whether he fits what you want to do on a starting 11 basis. Bring him off the bench, creativity. Put Kane back up front. Put Richarlison up front as he's playing for Brazil. Whatever you have to do, get somebody who's creative to come on and change games for you. But Aston Villa. I mean, since Emery's come in...
Want to give him credit, absolutely.
Yeah, since Emery's come in, I mean, you obviously had him at Arsenal, so you're going to know even better than I am. Are you surprised by this impact? Because Aston Villa, we've always said, much like Leicester in a way, but they've had a few injuries. Obviously, Maddison's out, Tielemans didn't play last game. Aston Villa have a very good team. Steven Gerrard was very much underperforming. with that team.
Yeah, no, he was. And you look at some of the players. Buendia cost 30-something million. Watkins, terrific player, as is Bailey. I love that central midfield of Kamara and Luiz. What a run from Luiz to get the goal. I think that's a really good defence. I think Matisse I rate over Young, but what a shift he's putting in for them. Am I surprised by Emery? No, because at Arsenal he did have, his first season was underrated. The Europa League final, on the brink of top four. Yes, you could say we kind of blew it in those last kind of 3-4 weeks of the season, but largely I think there was a lot to be excited about. I think long term he didn't really have a vision he wanted to implement. The players maybe got a little bit frustrated. I think in the short term though, he was able to carry out plans, game plans, get his team well prepared for games. And I went into this, normally I'd go in thinking, Villa away from home against the Big Six, look, good team, but I'm not really sure what I'm expecting. Even though they have picked up points at Old Trafford and the Bridge and whatever. With this though, I was excited. I thought, let's go into this, because Tottenham have been poor. And there's one team there's one manager who could set up a style that will stifle what Conte is trying to do, especially with how poorly Tottenham are playing. It is Aston Villa. And I think that really condensed kind of central midfield, they get very tucked in, Buendia and McGinn. They do help out. They even drop all the way to the full-back areas to help if they need to. Bailey, being a striker, could play right wing, can come across and help. Watkins, being a striker, who's play left wing, can come across and help. And there's just a really nice kind of fluidity to even their style of a 4-4-2. They've got lots of runners. They've got real kind of application what they're trying to do. And I think they're going to have a good season, Villa. I really do. What does a good season look like for them? Villa fans will tell you. But I would think it's in the top 10.
Top 10,
or at least close to it. Certainly seeing progress on the pitch and getting wins like this, being competitive against big sides. I thought they were unlucky to lose against Liverpool. I thought they had a lot of opportunities. So I'm not overly surprised they got the win they did, and fair play. That's a team that can do really well.
Like you mentioned with that midfield, really compact, and that's exactly how you want to be against Tottenham. Shove them into the wide areas, because we know the wing backs have been very hit and miss. Perisic, I rate.
That's kind.
He's had a great career. I'm being very kind, but the right side is a mess. It's either Doherty sometimes he's bringing in. Emerson Royale has been awful. He's not using Spence. I think Spence is probably for me the best out of the three, but he's not using Spence. Perisic is getting older. He's had some good crossing here and there, but he's not really been that, incredible. He's had a couple of good games from what I can remember. And we know that they've got no real creative outlet outside of Kane. And if Kane does drop deep, that's exactly where you want him. You want Kane to drop deep so he's away from your goal taking shots. Son, if he's pushed into the wide areas, he's not exactly a creative passer. He's not going to be somebody that's going to, find that pass in between the lines, or, play. He's statistically, I think, was we looking at it last week?
I think so,
where he was going through his statistics.
His FB ref kind of percentiles are all over the place.
It's all over the place for him in terms of his statistics and his progressive passing. He might attempt a lot of them because he kind of is forced to, but in terms of him actually completing it and then creating something, it's not really happening for him right now. And Gil, I mean, that was a nice surprise to see him in there, because we haven't really seen Gil at all. He had a really good loan from what I can remember out in La Liga for Valencia, I think it was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But again, Conte hasn't really been using him too much, and now you throw him in a game like this off the start, it works against you in a way, because it's like he's got cold feet. You haven't been racking up his minutes. I haven't seen Gil coming off the bench and clocking up 10, 15, 20 and really getting match sharp. So then you just throw him in there, not really surprised that Tottenham are struggling. So and Kane, not great. I think he's got too much responsibility in this team. We've spoken about it so many times. He's asked to do everything. I've seen for Chelsea, Thiago Silva is basically our creator, our best defender, our best passer. That's the same with Kane. He's literally everything for them in terms of creativity, so a lot of responsibility needs to be shouldered for the rest of the team. But when you look at that Tottenham team, there's some great players in there. There's some players that were great and are struggling, and then there's some real weak points, and you're just like, are we really even surprised? They've been playing pretty poorly for most of the season, and now they've got what's coming to them. Yeah,
completely agree. Well, as always, we'll keep following it. We'll keep an eye. We'll see what happens there. I think they'll bring some players in, but well done to Unai Emery and Aston Villa. A really, really good win. I think they deserve that, especially after their performance against Liverpool as well. I thought they showed some good signs, so I'm not overly surprised that they went and put in that kind of performance, got that kind of win. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Big thanks as always, Matisse.
Brilliant.
We couldn't chat as much about Chelsea, Liverpool as well, but we're keeping an eye on it all, don't you worry. And as always, be in the comment section, guys. Let us know who you'd like to see us talking about more, what you've noticed kind of stylistically, tactically about other teams. We will explore it. We try to explore what teams can do to beat Arsenal. I mean,
no one's figured it out yet. So
we don't know the answers.
you're unbeaten, right?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Well,
you know, Ten Hag figured it out, but no party. So
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But let us know your thoughts in the comments, guys. We're going to leave it there. Big thanks as always for joining us. Do hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Let us know as always what you want to see on future shows. And yeah, we'll be back to discuss the next round of fixtures probably later this week, if not early next week. You'll catch us soon. Many thanks.